Sound matters. Be heard. Welcome to the podcast where you get exclusive behind-the-scenes tips to make your own show sound truly spectacular. This is Podtastic Audio.
Hey, what's happening? How are you doing today? Thank you so much for being here today. I am Chris of the Chris and Christine Show podcast. You can find out all about that show if you decide to look it up. If you want to, it's up to you really, at chrisandchristineshow.com. And speaking of websites, and speaking of .coms, well, check this out. Just last week, I have got the brand new Podtastic Audio website up and running. It is at podtasticaudio.com, and I will put a link to that into the show notes. Don't you even worry about a little thing. But it's built on the brand new podcast page builder. It's very similar to Pod Page, which I actually mixed those up when I was talking to the guy. I was like, oh yeah, are you from Pod Page? Podcast Page. Anyways, it's Podcast Page, which runs very similar to Pod Page. In fact, they look very similar, so it's very easy how you can get these two confused, really. But anyways, the website is up and running right now. It's podtasticaudio.com on Podcast Page. Got so many P's in the sentence. Screw me up, man. So basically what it is, it's my website where I've created a player on there, ways to share episodes, ways to listen to episodes. It's got a list of all the reviews I've had. It's got an email feature where you can send a little quick message directly to me on the thing. You can send a quick voicemail right onto the thing. It's got a lot of features built into this thing for design for podcasting, but it's also got other things too. So as I go on using it, I will begin to add more features and more things to the website. Now, if you have a website or a podcast or anything like that, you always know that you always can change your show. You can change the artwork, you can change the format, you can change, if you have a host, you can change out a host for another host. In fact, if you wanted to, you can completely change the entire premise of the entire podcast. But you got to let your listeners know first before you flip over from a knitting show to a true crime show. You got to really have to let them know first. Don't, freak out your listeners by doing a big drop like that. But you always can change things, change out the technology. You can add to your website. You can change things all the time. So something coming up real soon, I have decided to try, that is personal one-on-one coaching. So if you have your podcast, you need questions that I can't really answer here on the podcast by telling you stuff, or you maybe went to YouTube and you looked up stuff and it didn't make any sense what you're seeing, what they're kind of explaining. If you need personal help with your podcast, I say, you know what? I have a very limited amount of time and I will dedicate that time, carve out an hour session with you to help you figure out your podcast. Now you're thinking Chris, why should I work with you on figuring out my podcast? Well, first things first is that I love audio. I love podcasting. I probably love it more than you do and probably more than most people do. I have grew up on the radio. I have probably consumed more hours of audio content in my life than video content. What I mean by this is that audio and radio production is something that's been in my blood for a very, very long time. I think I was probably one of the very first original podcasters that ever existed. I started podcasting back in 1995. And you're thinking, Chris, podcasting didn't really get invented until 2003 or 2004. How is it even possible you started 10 years before that? Well, have you ever heard of cassette tapes? Yeah, I would make audio cassette tapes with music and vocals and my voice and actually make copies of that and send it out to people, mail it to people or hand it to all my friends. I was creating the first original podcast network back in 1995. Unfortunately, I took quite a bit of a break between then till now, and here we are today. But basically, I'm saying is that I love audio on another level. I love podcasting and podcast production on another level than your basic, like, I'm going to do a Zoom call and just save whatever audio it is and send it out on my podcast with zero editing and zero thought. I'm not like that. I'm going to make sure that your show sounds amazing and it's fantastic every step of the way. In fact, more than just helping you figure out your show, I will also listen to your show and I will give you my honest thoughts and ways to make it better. Together, you and I can help figure out a strategy to make sure your show is amazing. Now, if you are interested and you are very serious about making a change for your podcast and you're saying, Chris, I wish you could help me out here. Let's go over some things. Well, the link to schedule a meeting with me is down below in the show notes of this episode. So just book with me and we'll get it all set up. So about a week ago or so, I was invited to be a co-host on a Twitter Spaces group chat with Pixie from the Next on Stage 1 podcast. And she also does the Project Pixie podcast, where she talks to other podcasters and tries to get advice about podcasting and things like that. So she invited me on to do a Q&A session for all kinds of podcasters, give them advice on sound quality, on sound stuff, and basically kind of like share my expertise with podcasters live in real time. In fact, I might actually do more of those Twitter Spaces because it was quite fun having like callers call in and I give them advice live in real time. And I recorded the entire session with the Roadcaster here. It was very easy to do. So here is a good portion of that Twitter Space.
Bare basic things to get you started. What do you recommend?
If it's just going to be you doing a podcast, just you by yourself, and you're never, ever going to have another person in the same room with you doing a show, that just can be you at your desk or whatever it is, and maybe you might have a Zoom call or something down the line somewhere outside the room kind of thing, then all you really need is a simple, basic USB microphone. There's a lot to choose from. The USB microphone just plugs directly into any USB port on your computer, and it automatically recognizes what it is on your computer. It'll say, oh, it's the microphone. Okay, great. You want to use it? Great, yeah. So then there may be a few adjustments in your settings for either Windows or Mac or whatever you're using. Just kind of adjust the gain, which is like how much juice you're going to be giving the microphone, how loud it's going to be. Now, that's all you really need. And a pair of headphones too, I would say. But it's not necessary. You could just do a podcast like talking directly into the thing with no headphones on. I know some people do that. The downside to that really is that if something was being picked up with a microphone that you didn't hear, it'll be in the recording. And then what do? You're kind of stuck with it on the recording.
Oh, you're right. I mean, I don't know if anybody can hear it, but I live next to a busy 4-lane street. And I have trucks passing me by all of the time. And maybe I'll hear that in the background. Maybe I'll hear that in my recording. And you're right. It's hard to eliminate those kind of noises. So what do you suggest? Do you suggest that we treat the room first? Do you suggest that we work about it in the editing process? What do you think, Chris?
A little combination of both, I would say. So it just depends. I know some people really emphasize in one side or the other. They're saying like, okay, there's a lot of plugins, a lot of computer stuff, and a lot of editing stuff you can do, that kind of thing. And then if some people are like the other side, are like, well, I want to make sure that I'm doing this in my closet, or it's like the best place to really record because sound doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't bounce around. This room I'm in right now, and in fact, every podcast I've ever done has been in a totally horrible sound environment. Like it's been like in the worst environment possible for a podcast by any means. I have tile floors. Like in my other house, I had wood floors, a solid floor, solid walls, solid stuff, no carpeting or anything like that. So it's like totally horrible. Sound does bounce around. I do hear it a little bit here when I do it. But as far as like getting rid of that, some of that stuff, if you have a carpeted room, it's probably one of the better places to do it. If you have a lot of like furniture that's cloth type of stuff. I mean, closet really is probably like the best place, It does give a very that sound really, it gets rid of like all the echo sound that people really are worried about and they do hear in their recording. Being in a closet, it seems to work right. So I always say like, if you can, it's only up to you, but if you could possibly hang like big giant like drapes, curtains in front of you and behind you, That will probably take care of majority of that. If you look at the Joe Rogan show, you notice Joe Rogan, his guest, always sits in front of a curtain, right? A lot of that's for the sound, take care of some of the sound echo and things like that. So it'll suck up the sound and it won't make it bounce back to the microphone, because the sound does, it bounces around and hits solid objects. So that echo you might hear is the sound wave bouncing off the wall behind you or whatever, going right back to your microphone. So if you can eliminate that, that will help. But not everybody can do that. Like I can't do that because this room, the way it's designed, we can't really do that. So what I try to do is in post-production, do my best job to kind of eliminate some of the echo sound. There's some plugins you can get, and there are some tricks you can use and things you can pay for that can take care of some of that stuff. It's at the end of the day, all this, only thing that really matters is whether or not when you hear it, does it sound good to you? Use your own ears as your guide.
Oh, yeah. I mean, replaying what you're putting out is always going to be the best and first, like, that's the feedback you're going to get. When you're listening to your audio after it's already done, do you recommend listening to it on different devices?
I have. Yeah, I have. I also try to do it in different locations too, if possible, because if you think about it, your listener that's listening to your podcast, they're not going to be listening to it in like a studio sound room with enclosed headphones and completely silenced. They're going to listen to it in different versions and different devices. They're going to listen to it in the car. They're going to listen to it on their phone. They're going to listen to it with earbuds on. They're going to listen to it, mowing the lawn. But I don't know who would do that, but people do that, I try to make sure that I can kind of cover it, make sure it sounds good for all of them, not just one or the other. Like no matter where you're listening to the show or your listener could be listening to the show, they can still hear you and most importantly, understand you. Because I've heard some shows, it's been a while since I've heard a really, really bad show, but I've heard some really bad shows where like you had to crank it up full blast to really hear it. And then you heard his hiss and it was kind of quiet. And then if they had a guest come on and then the guest came on like super loud or something and they had to crank it back down, crank it back up, crank it back down. That's just about like 5 minutes of that. You're just turning it off. You're just like, I give up. I'm done.
Well, DJ Scoob has a question for you. He says, I use a Blue Yeti Nano for his recording. I think the sound is good, but what would you suggest?
Is it just you by yourself? Because that's
so. DJ Scoob's, his podcast is about entrepreneurs. So sometimes it's him and sometimes it's him talking to other people. So mostly it's him talking to other people. And he has a very limited budget, a very small room to be able to record into.
Now the Blue Yeti Nano, is that the one where you can actually listen back to yourself as you record? I think the Blue Yeti itself's got a headphone jack plugged into it, and I think you can actually listen, like monitor your own voice as you talk. The monitoring on some of those USB microphones, they're not as good as like a Rodecaster or any kind of mixing console, really. Even the Rodecaster has its issues because it's a digital thing. It's not analog, like back in the old radio days where it was pretty quick. When you talked into it, you actually heard it right back to your ears immediately. And I know some people freaks them out when they hear their own voice talking at the same time. But yeah, so as far as the Blue Yeti Nano goes, I would suggest make sure that you have it set on the correct setting. There are some settings on the Blue Yeti microphones. I don't know if that one has it or not, but there's one, like the major one, like the big guy, has these settings to where like if you turn it the wrong direction, now you're picking up sound from everywhere, or you're picking up sound from the other side of the microphone, not the side you're using. And make sure that you're talking, I believe if it's the same thing, talking to the front of the microphone, and probably get within a fist distance away from the microphone when you talk. Set the gain level correctly. There should be a gain level on the thing. Sample it out and see. You want to get it loud enough to where you sound good, but you're not picking up like all of the room noise, like the hiss, the background. Because if you crank the thing at full blast, you'll hear like a sound, and you don't really want that on the recording because now it's on the recording and they have to figure out how to get rid of that. So that's what I would suggest. But if you're doing like Zoom calls and stuff, you don't need like a Rodecaster or a Zoom Pod Track. All those do work very well for that kind of stuff. But if it's just you by yourself, that's probably just fine.
I did bring up DJ Scoob, and I shared his studio up into the nest. DJ Scoob, do you want to kind of ask a couple more questions of Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on. I love being here. Okay, so Chris, I don't know if you were able to see the picture. I'm at work, so you might hear some noise. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I hear that.
Yeah, if you take a look at the picture, that's pretty much my setup. And it's the Blue Yeti Nano. It does have a button there, which will either record everything around me or record anything that's in front of me. And then it does have a headphone jack where I can listen to my own voice. But that's pretty much it. I know the bigger one, the regular Yeti, has a few more settings on it. Those are kind of like the bare minimums that I use.
Okay, so first things first, that Blue Yeti microphone, it looks like you're using it incorrectly, if I know anything about Blue Yeti.
Yeah.
The Blue Yeti
Yeah.
Yeah, the Blue Yeti microphone, the actual part that picks up your voice is not the tip. The part that picks up your voice is like the front. That is like a key. Like every Blue Yeti you see people using it, it seems like there's always so many people are using incorrectly, and they can't figure out why they get so much echo in their recording, because you're not talking to the part that's picking you up. You're talking to the other side. So that's probably the first thing I would do is try to look at the manual and see. I don't own one of these, so I can't speak on this. I don't own a Blue Yeti, so I'm just hearing what I've been told, that the front of the microphone, like where I think it looks like a knob on the backside of the picture I'm looking at.
Yeah, there's if you were to tilt it upwards to where it's supposed to be, there's a knob on the front that's colored that goes different colors, whether it's on mute or not. That's the part that needs to be facing you there. And then when you're doing that, then you're facing it the right direction.
Okay, yeah. Whatever direction you need to be facing the microphone is the direction I would say put the microphone towards you and talk into that part and see what happens. And always test out your equipment and see what you like and what you don't like, and try it and see. I see you got paddling in front of you. Do you have anything behind you? Any paddling behind you in this picture?
I don't have any paneling behind me because I have pictures of my logo on me for the moment until I can figure out something else to do that.
Okay. Well,
but everything else, I got padding around me.
Is echo a real big problem for your show? Because I see a lot of paddling on here.
Not really that I'm picking up on my side, and I haven't had anybody complain about it yet, as far as, listeners saying, hey, you sound weird or anything like that. Okay. So I don't know if I just have enough around me to the point where it's not echoing so much, but yeah. Yeah,
it looks like overkill. I've never seen anything like that, but I know that with us, with the way it seems it's that it picks up behind me, like the sound would. Well, especially when you have two people in the same room, like two people talking to each other in the same room, facing each other. Like my microphone sound would go to their wall, bounce to their mic, and their microphone would bounce behind me, bounce to my mic, that kind of thing. So that's kind of what happens with that. I know that I think behind you is a good place to put stuff. Also, people don't really think about that when they do a wall treatment for their room, because the sound does bounce back. If you think about when your microphone's pointing to you in your mouth, if it bounces to the wall behind you and bounces directly past your head to the microphone, that's where it's going to hit, So, you did a good job putting all kinds of sound paneling everywhere. It looks great.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, the foam, actually, I work at a hospital, and it was foam they were just throwing away at a pharmacy or something like that. So I just had them save it for me, and that's what I turned it into. Nice. There you go. Fantastic. I like that you have it all behind the computer. So if you're doing a Zoom call or anything like that, nobody sees that stuff. It's all for sound and all that kind of stuff. So, but the first thing I would say is try to get that Blue Yeti turned around the other way, or whatever way it's supposed to be, and then talk into that and see. Yeah. Just do some samples, and then I've changed it since that picture, because somebody told me the exact same thing the first time I put that picture out to some friends. Say, hey, look what I got. They got your Yeti's the wrong way. Oh, okay, yeah. So
I like the fact that Chris is not telling you to buy all new gear. I like the fact that
here's what you gotta do. You gotta get the MacBook, the big Mac Tower machine. That thing's like $70,000. You need to buy one of those, and then you need to buy two Roadcasters. Not just one, just buy two Roadcasters, because just in case one breaks down.
Two Roadcasters.
Exactly. Thank you, DJ Scoob. I hope you have a wonderful day at work.
Okay, thank you.
If you have any more questions, feel free. We got a chat going on down there in the bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to reset the room real quick. This is Project Podcast with Pixie. And today I'm talking with Chris from Podtastic Audio about sound quality, about what you're doing, where you're recording. If you have any questions, feel free to either ask them in the little chat thing right there or come up on stage. Chris is just a wealth of knowledge. He's done a lot with his main podcast, and now he wants to give back to people. And the way he's giving back to people is helping them with the technical side. I can help you with the marketing and the connecting and the blah, 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 but I couldn't tell you what microphone to use. That's not my shtick. So I bring on people who actually know what they're talking about in that field. So if you want to come up, feel free, request the microphone. This is a discussion for people. I see Abigail's going to come up here. Chris, what do you think about the space so far?
Oh, it's fantastic. I think it's great. Thank you for inviting me on today. I really appreciate this. I'm not a big spacer, I guess you guys call spacers? I don't know. But
well, you're so busy. Busy all the time.
I'm very, very busy. I think some people have lots of money, lots of time. I have neither really, but yeah. So I'm really busy. I work a full-time job in the afternoon evenings, and then I do 2 shows on my spare time, and then I come here and join you guys when I have a little extra spare time for that. So here we are.
Perfect. I got another question from in the chat. Rihanna, she says, what plugins do you recommend? That is a great question.
I am not a big fan. I've tried plugins. I have a few. It depends on what kind of program. Are you talking plugins for like an audio editing software, or are you talking?
Probably plugins for a microphone, because you said plug-in microphone.
Are you talking microphone?
Or maybe let's get her up here.
Okay.
She's the host of Better Call Daddy show.
Nice.
We're gonna she's fantastic. I met her on Instagram, so you'll love her. She's very sweet. So yeah, I don't know if she's talking about microphones or if she's talking about plugins on the different editing software. There she is. She's requested the microphone. Let's bring her up. It takes about 30 seconds for somebody to come up here on stage. Welcome.
Hey, thanks, Pixie. Yeah, I heard you mention earlier that you used a couple of plugins to fix all. Could you hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear you now.
Oh, sorry. I was getting a phone call at the same time. My dad was actually calling.
Daddy's calling you. It's funny.
Daddy was calling. So my question was, how do you get rid of echo? You had mentioned there was a couple plugins that you use. Well,
there is some ways you can do it. The quick and dirty, easy way that I have found that works very, very well. It costs money, of course. But have you ever heard of something called Descript?
Yeah, I have heard of it. I haven't really used it that much.
Okay, well, what Descript does is I started playing with it a little more. If you want a quick and dirty way to edit your podcast, even though it's video too, but if you want a quick and dirty way to do a whole editing job, where it can take out all your it can make the audio sound better, and even can insert stuff, which I think is kind of nuts. Somehow like an AI figures out what you're saying and recreates your voice, insert words that you just type in the text. It's nuts. I've never played with that part of it really. I have used it to take out the and I've taken out that kind of stuff. But there also is a studio sound feature built into it that's kind of hidden feature. It's hard to really find. It's not like on the front screen. You have to like dig around and find it. But what it does is it takes your audio and it does a very, very good job of removing the echo from the audio. So it's called Studio Sound Effect. And there's a percentage dial on there, like from 1 to 100% of like how much of the studio effect you want to use. And there's a couple of guests that we had on the Chris and Christine show that had echo, like not too bad, but it wasn't crazy. It wasn't like a crazy amount, but I said, let me throw it in there and see what it does. And it took it all the way away. It tries to give the illusion that person is on like a studio microphone. You know, it does it for what it can do. It does a fairly good job. You do have to pay for that though, by the way. It's part of the paid package when you do get Descript. Descript does give you 3 total hours of like free sample use to play around with their service. But then after that, I think you got to pay for it. You're done, you know? So if you're using your 3 hours to kind of figure it out like I did, and then I realized, oh, now I know how it works. Let me do something with it. And now it's like, oh, I'm now out of free use. So I had to upgrade to the regular version. And I kind of been using it just for that. And it's a very simple way. And it does a very good job of taking away the echo. I think the minimum plan that I'm paying right now is $15 a month. And I know that might be a lot for some people who don't want to pay anything. As far as plugins go, there's a lot to choose from. I'm Googling them right now. What these all do, I mean, it's up to you. This one says it's called Waves Clarity VX Pro. And it says it's for noise reduction for voice. That's the top one on the list. I'm seeing top 6 plugins for 2022. Yeah, I mean, I don't really use these that often. What I've done is a quick and dirty, run it through the script to get rid of the echo.
Chris, could you share that link into the chat down below, and then I'll share it up into the net?
Let me see here.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm on my Chrome, I think. So let me see if I can. I'm on the computer. I'm juggling 2 things: the computer and the phone at the same time. So, see Twitter.
Well, I appreciate you spending your time in here and just answering your questions.
Okay, I just tweeted it out under my feed. So let's see if I can pull it up on the phone and then see if I can send it out there.
I don't know if you've ever done this, but like I used the noise cancellation on Riverside, and it sounded good during the recording, and then afterwards it didn't sound the same.
Chris, I shared that up into the nest.
Oh, okay, you did it for me? Oh, okay. The one I just sent out?
Like, have you ever used like noise canceling on Zoom or on Riverside?
No, I wouldn't recommend doing that. You could, it's up to you. I'm not a big fan of either of those features for recording audio, because those things, I know Riverside's a little better, I think, than Zoom. But if you think about Zoom's basic idea is really to have like a office conferencing call, really is what it's really designed for, you know? So they're focusing more on, make sure that, like, they're just assuming that everybody on the call is just using their webcam, and everybody on the call is just using their webcam microphone. They're just assuming that, you know? So they got everything set in place just to kind of filter those things out. So those filters are really designed for that stuff. As far as it actually, like, you know, picking it up in the recording on Riverside, see, I'm not sure how Riverside records the call. If it's done like locally or if it's done on the...
It's local and over the net. Yeah. Okay.
And then how do you get the recording? Is it downloaded from the internet?
It gives you both versions. It syncs them both.
So did you have a chance to listen to either side and see if the recording, the sound stuff was in one or the other?
Well, my editor edited it, but I should ask her that.
Because if you can narrow down where the actual problem is, then you'll kind of know, you know, like, oh, well, it happened on this.
I think it was probably local.
Oh, okay.
Usually that's the better recording.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, usually it is. When I've heard horror stories with Riverside, but I've heard people plug it and say it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, you know? So
usually it is. Okay. Usually it's the best thing since sliced bread, but not this time. And now I'm like, how do I fix it? Maybe I should try the Descript feature.
Yeah, like I said, if you pay for that service, you take your audio, dump it into there, and I think Descript is really becoming like the one-stop shop for like people who are editors, who like say like I'm charging to edit someone else's show. They probably take it and dump it into Descript and maybe add some intro music, and 10 minutes later they're done. You know, and they charge you for an hour's worth of work. I mean, that's probably what I would do. I think.
Yeah.
You know, but obviously you got to try to listen to it back, and I know some of these editors, depending who edits your show. I know some, if they edit out of the country, some of the terms and language we use in America, they're not too familiar with. So either they chop it or don't know what to do or whatever. So.
Yeah, totally. I re-listen and QA everything, but sometimes I'm like, why'd you take that out? Yeah.
Right. So I guess you pay for what you get, what you pay for. So it's kind of the way it is. Yeah. As far as plugins go, I use Audacity. Now I know Audacity is not like the one that everybody, all the big time guys say, don't use Audacity, it's garbage, it's junk. But I love it. You know, it works for me. I've been using it. It's very simple. It's free. You know, it works great. There is now a brand new update for Audacity that allows you to do real-time effects, plugins, like you say, real-time, and play with it. I don't know if you can play with it while you're recording, but I do. You can play with it while you're like editing it. So like say you're playing the track, you can like actually like adjust the audio and stuff live in real time and take it out if you don't like it in real time too. So it's a new feature they just came up with, I think this week or last week.
Cool. Hey, thank you for having me. While you were mentioning Audacity, I wanted to kind of cut in a little bit and say that, you can use Audacity to get good things. You can use it to do some very precise editing, though I personally have stopped using it as much because a new company took over the license for Audacity and they turned it into a form of spyware as well. So everyone, please be aware that when you use Audacity, they are creating a certain form of cataloging every time you use their service. And I haven't looked too much into that since then, but I don't know what all that entails. It's something to keep in mind with Audacity.
Well, just to keep this in mind too, you are also on Twitter.
Right. And all of the spaces and everything that we do, we are not only consumers, but we're the product. Right, Chris?
That's 100% correct.
So,
Hey, I'm not trying to create some kind of like Orwellian screed here. It's just something to think about. Maybe Twitter might be a more trustworthy company than that company. Of course, I don't know. I doubt Twitter is. I doubt any of these companies are really not trustworthy. I just wanted to give everybody the slight heads up if they want it. If they can take the information and do whatever they want with it. A program I would recommend besides Audacity, though, is Mixcraft. It is a very high quality DAW. You can get a license, I think, between $100 and a couple $100. I lucked out and a friend gave me a license. I've had it for about a year, and it's been the best thing I could ever ask for any of my music and podcast editing. It comes with really powerful editing tools. It has a bus compressor on it that is so excellent, and it works so well for podcasting. And I would also suggest that, in particular, if anyone can get their hands on a bus compressor app, then that will clean up your recordings in a way like standard noise removal won't.
That's awesome.
What was the name of that DAW again?
Yeah.
Mixcraft. It's a very uncomfortable word for me to say, so I apologize. I'll spell it out if anybody needs it. Mixcraft.
Okay, I'm on their website right now.
Any way I can get you to drop either a link to the webpage or something in the chat. That way people could have resources for later.
I will tweet out right now.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
I'm tweeting it right now. So
Perfect.
I just sent out a tweet.
I'm going to reset the room real quick. This is Project Podcast with Pixie, and today we're talking to Chris from Podtastic Audio, who is willing to give us a couple moments of his time answering your audio questions. I do see Ed from the 80s Movie Podcast up here with his hand up. Ed, did you have a question for Chris while he's tweeting that out?
No, I'm sorry. I don't have a question for Chris. I first originally, when I saw the topic, I was recently introduced by Danny Brown to a free Adobe software online called Shasta, Project Shasta. I shared the link up on the Nest. I recently moved my recording area from my outside office into a spare bedroom in the house so I could actually be nicely air conditioned while I was recording, but I was getting bad echo in the sound in the room. So Danny tipped me off to Project Shasta, and the difference is amazing. I don't have any acoustic paneling in my recording space, and the difference was astounding, and it only took a couple minutes for their AI to completely clean it up. So
nice.
If you're
please
hold on, let me finish. So okay. I'm just suggesting for those who are on a limited budget, give it a shot. If you find it as helpful as I have, fantastic. And if you don't, well, at least you gave it a try. And then I wanted to refute Robbie's recent statement about Audacity. That accusation was actually proven to be incorrect about it being spyware. It was proven more than a year ago that it's not spyware.
Okay.
So the person who made the accusation made it based on a false assumption, an incorrect assumption, and it's been proven time and time again, Audacity is not spyware.
Okay.
It's safe to use. So I just wanted to throw those two things out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That makes me feel better because I like using Audacity because I can't do like the subtler cutting and editing. Thank you. So that's good to know. I really appreciate that.
I just tweeted out the Project Shasta to my feed, so the link to that.
Yeah, I also have it up on the Nest. It's the third item on the Nest right now.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. Robbie, did you have any questions for Chris about about audio and making sure your space is being recorded? That sounds good.
Well, I did kind of want to ask you what you do to treat your space. I do a little bit of treatment, but I don't have any of the panels on the walls or anything like that. I find I can usually get a usable sound out of making sure my mic just has enough coverage on top of it. Like usually I find if I have like a good thick sock, then I can get a clean sound out of my room. But maybe that's just my rooms or whatever, or my equipment. Either way, I'm curious to see what you do to treat your room.
I do absolutely nothing. And I mean nothing.
Oh.
I am in like the worst room possible to do. All the podcasts I've ever done have been in like horrible, like by the numbers, horrible rooms to do a podcast. Talking solid floors, solid walls, just solid stuff, no carpeting, nothing. In fact, the room I'm in right now, it's got tile floors. It's got a computer desk with solid, shelves and solid stuff. And, it's a standard bedroom size room, solid and everything. I mean, there's like a futon in here, but that's not going to be enough to soak up the entire, it's not enough. But what I've done, I think, is I think just getting really good mic technique. Those cover, like you said, like the actual pop filter cover. I have one on this microphone. The microphone I'm using right now, I'm actually talking into a Rodecaster Pro 2 using the Rode PodMic microphone. And I have the standard pop filter on top of it. And I'm using that right now. That's all I have going on right now as far as sound stuff. So does it sound okay to you?
Oh, it all sounds okay. I also find that I would prefer to have less treble to deal with. So I like to have a lot of coverage on my mic. So later when I'm editing, I can just take out the bass and it sounds a lot cleaner. That's a tip I can give anyone for any situation. Having a little more coverage over your microphone, you might be sacrificing some treble, but for editing later on, you'll be able to edit that cleaner because you won't have so many highs and so much room noise.
Right. Yeah. It was like I said, I wish I had more like soundproofing in this room for audio. I wish I did, but I don't. So it's just the nature of the room, we have to use this room for multiple purposes. So it's just the way it is.
You sound plenty tolerable. I wouldn't worry about it too much. You sound as fine as any other podcaster.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't worry about it really at all. In fact, I did an episode on Podtastic Audio probably about 5 or 6 episodes ago where I took just a microphone and the Zoom PodTrack P4 machine running on batteries, and I walked around every single room of this house live in real time and did an example of what it sounds like in every single room. For the most part, it all sounded fairly the same. Even when you go from rooms with a lot of echo versus, carpeted areas, and the closet was probably like the best sound was like in the closet because you couldn't hear any echo at all. But it was fun. It was a fun episode.
Yeah. Hey, that's good to hear. I'm glad that you guys did this. I'm going to look at all the little programs that you have links to on here. Thank you so much for your time. I can only stay for just a little bit of time, so I have to get going. But it was a pleasure to be able to pop in and talk to you. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you, Robbie, for joining. Yeah, Chris, this is great. This is amazing. We got a couple of fantastic people here up on stage. Are you ready for some more questions?
Always. Let's go. What's up?
All right. Let's see if Abigail, the manic pixie weirdo, if she's got anything for you. I know, she's so lovely.
I know, isn't she?
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We can.
Okay, perfect. So I have a question about, it feels like in the space that I'm occupying, I I had really good sound, but now I literally all I did was like move my desk, and now I don't feel like I'm getting the same sound that I was, that sound like the really good. I don't know, maybe I just need to move the desk back, but like it's the sound, it just doesn't sound the way that I want it to. Do you have any like tips?
It's very possible. It's very possible you could have moved it, and then it just. How big is the room?
It's big. It's really big. It probably takes up like 40% of the house.
Like tall ceiling kind of big too? Like
No, not tall ceilings. It's just like long.
Well, I mean, that could be it too. Is it carpeting or is it all like solid floors?
No, there's carpeting.
Oh, that does help out.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried any of those? We have one. We barely use it. It's like this pop-up like studio microphone, like foam paneling that like it's portable. It folds out and like you can put it like behind your microphone or kind of around your microphone. You ever tried anything like that?
No, I have not tried that. No, I have not.
I got it on Amazon. I think I paid like $50 for it, and it's for design. It's designed for microphone and for like audio production, and it folds out like it's that size of a briefcase, maybe a little smaller than a briefcase, and it kind of folds out, right? And you kind of like fold it up as kind of like this half like C-shaped thing with these little pegs on it, and you kind of set on a desk. Or it does come with, I think, a mount if you wanted to mount it to like a pole or something. It's like you're doing your show like standing up and you want to talk in the microphone standing up. So you can put it right at your like height level. And that usually kind of goes around the microphone. And we have one. We haven't used it much, but I did know at the old house, we were doing some test runs in another room. We had the same problem. It was like echoing real bad. We put that on there. It was gone. It was totally gone because it was sucking up all the sound. It wasn't bouncing anywhere. That's an idea. You could try that. It was about $50 on Amazon last I checked, but I don't know,
Oh, that's not bad. Okay. And then I'm so sorry. I have one more question for you.
Go ahead, Abigail.
Pop screens?
Yeah, it depends what kind of microphone
you
you're
recommend?
using. The screen or the actual filter, the clown nose, I call it, filter thing on top.
No, like the pop screen, like the actual.
Yes, I was using them quite a bit on the other microphones I was using. I don't use them on this one, although I probably could, but I just think it's too much stuff. Adding, what kind of microphone are you using?
I don't know the name of it. It's literally just from like Amazon. It was dirt cheap.
Is it USB or is it like an XLR? Do you know that much?
It's USB.
Okay.
Yes, it's USB.
Okay. Yeah. Any of them will do. I had a couple that I liked because the actual like flexi arm wouldn't keep falling down. But some of the cheaper ones, like the flexible arm that you attach the arm to like the base of the microphone or something, you kind of move it up in front of the microphone. They're garbage. The cheap ones, they just fall back down. It'll stay up in place, So find a better one. Try to put it probably a good 3 inches or 3 to 2 inches away from the microphone where you're talking into it. Try that. That actually kind of gives you a good space. It does help you when you have those on there for like mic technique. So you're not getting too close to it or too far away. So, get your mouth to that thing and then you're pretty much on the right spot where you need to be, like a marker. We used them on the other show for years until we got different microphones. And I think they're great. They're not that much. I think the expensive one was probably $10 or $20 maybe $20 at the most for the really good one. Try it and see, that could help out. Plus the backdrop foam paneling really, the portable one, because the portable one's great because the portable one you can put away. You don't have to have it on your wall for all your neighbors and your friends to see, you can take it away. So, and only set up when you need it. That's what I would do.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Abigail, did that help you? I mean, this is pretty good. We're all working within like space and budget. Most of us, we're not professional. Some of us, we've moved into multiple realms. Up in the nest, I have the picture of my studio, my home studio, because I have 2 now. And I have a shag carpet up on the wall. I have a little bit of foam paneling, and then I've got Magic the Gathering packages, boxes, and I got stuff behind me. And I got to tell you guys, sometimes it's just simple, easy things that you don't really think about that can just help the quality of your sound. Chris, I love this space. This is really good. What do you think?
It is fantastic. I love it. Hey, by the way, Pixie, what kind of microphone are you using in that picture I'm looking at right now? What is that?
I have no idea, guys. All right. So it's a, gosh, I have no idea.
But it's XLR. It looks like it's XLR, right?
It could be. So a little thing about me, I'm a cheapskate.
That's
and
okay.
I go to the flea market all of the time. And I found, I think it's an AKG. I think it's like a $200 microphone.
No way.
But I didn't pay too much. I didn't buy it for $200 because I am a cheapskate. I spent $2 on that microphone.
Nice.
It was in a pile of junk. The guys didn't know what they had. And I said, how much for this? And they go, give me a couple of bucks.
Nice.
And we paid $2 for a condenser microphone that I just plug into my stuff and I don't have to think about it. I make sure that my microphone is positioned in front of me. I use a C-stand. I use lighting. I make sure that I set up right. I have a mirror in the back of my studio setup that's not in the picture anymore. But sometimes it's just knowing what I have and then knowing what I can use. Because I'm not going to pay for a whole bunch of stuff. Now you can go completely professional. You can do that. But like you, Chris, we're working with what we have in the room and the space that we have right now. So I love being able to like pick your brain. Are you ready for some more questions?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay. I know that my friend Trevor, he's in the doctor's office right now. Digressor. He was up on stage. He's not here. I'm just going to make him listen to this recording later. His laptop has stopped recognizing his 2 different microphones. He's had to record the last 2 episodes of Casablanca with his laptop built-in microphone, which is potato quality. What can you suggest for the computer to recognize his microphones?
What kind of microphone was it again? A potato something?
He didn't say. No, he said it sounds like a potato because he's using the laptop's built-in microphone. But his microphones that he's bought that plug in, they're not being recognized by the laptop.
Okay, I'm assuming they're a USB microphone, right? So here's what you do. Some microphones that are USB do require actual like firmware updates. You have to go to their manufacturer's website. We had a problem with ours a couple of times. Make sure you're running the latest firmware for the microphone that you're using, if it's a USB microphone. Now, if you're using an XLR interface like I am, I think Pixie, you probably are too, if you're using another microphone, you have some kind of interface, right? It's the interface that you need to worry about, the firmware update to. Make sure you're running the latest updates for the firmware for the interface you're using. If you're just using a microphone directly to the computer, it's the microphone. Because what a USB microphone really is think about it, it's like an all-in-one. It's although it plugs into the computer, it's the actual because the interface takes your analog audio from your voice and transfers into like a digital form and sends it to the computer. The USB microphone kind of does it all in one. So all the software, like all the firmware stuff would be built into that thing. So you make sure that your computer is all set up and ready to go. I would do that. The second thing I would do is reset the computer. Actually, probably the first thing I would do would be reset the computer and then reset the microphone. Then reset everything. Give it a good 10 seconds or whatever and bring it back up and see if that pulls it back up and see. But also if that doesn't work, check the firmware updates of the microphone you are using.
Fantastic. Hopefully that'll help him. I did send him a message because it can be frustrating. You spent this money on a microphone and then it ends up not working. And then you're just like, ugh. And then you got to use the potato that is the quality of the microphone that's in your laptop. And that's even more frustrating.
Well, microphones, if you're going to go the USB route, they're not very much. You go on Amazon, you can find them as low as $10. But I mean, listen, you're going to get what you pay for, really. If you're going to go a USB route, I'd say the decent price range is probably $50 and above, maybe. If you're going to go the USB route, like we started off with $20 microphones on the Chris and Christine show, and we did the pop filters. We did the whole pop filters on top. We did the windscreens on top of that. Plus we did the little shock mount things. We did a bunch of different stuff to try to make it sound the best we could with the space we had. And like I said, they were okay. They did an okay job. The problem we were noticing is that we were doing the stupid thing of actually listening back to ourselves live right off of the headphone jack on the computer. Now, the computer, since it was so old and just the way it was, there was a slight like half-second delay from when we talk to when we heard it. So when we were talking and we hear a slight delay in our headphones, what we just said, it causes you don't think about this, it causes you to slur down your words to kind of catch up with what you're saying in real time. Versus when you naturally would talk, you hear yourself, quick and instant. It wasn't like that. It was just a slight enough delay to where you start slurring yourself down. So I said, we got to get rid of this junk. We got to get like an interface or something to make sure we get rid of that delay. That was our biggest concern, was getting rid of that stupid thing. But I think the microphones were okay. If you don't ever listen back to yourself, it's probably fine that way. But I wouldn't recommend doing that.
So Digressor, Chris recommends that you update your software.
Firmware
for your microphones. And that would probably fix your problem.
And then reset everything.
Potato.
I didn't realize that it was talking. I just out of the plan. I was like reading everything. So I wasn't really paying attention to anything you said.
So So when this space is over, Trevor, I'm going to have you go back and listen to it at the 12:45 mark is when we started talking about you.
Okay.
Okay, so let's reset this room real quick. This is Project Podcast with me. It's a recorded space that I turn into my podcast where I help podcasters with their questions. It's a community. It's other independent podcasters that like to help and spread information. And today we're talking to Chris. And Chris happens to have two different podcasts. He's got the Chris and Christine show, and then he has this fantastic one where he's giving back to the community called Podtastic Audio. And he's here helping you with your questions and interesting things that you might have right now. And I've got a couple of friends up here on the stage.
Okay.
And I want to talk to you, Chris. And do you want to answer some more questions?
Yeah, sure. Whatever you got.
You ready? Cool. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So let's talk to Christian, who is the host of Film Optics Podcast.
Oh, I know Christian. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, what's going on? How you been? Sorry, I'm on my cell phone right now.
Hey, I bought the Roadcasters. Do you hear it now?
Yeah, no, it sounds great. I was looking to see what the difference was between the first one and the second one. I'm like, I wasn't trying, I don't know. I was like, do I need to update? I'm like, if I can trade it in, maybe, but I still got to do some research, but I'm glad it's working out for you.
Yeah, well, it's a learning curve for me because I went from like regular interface jumping into this. I skipped over version 1 and went straight to version 2. So,
right.
So far so good. In fact, I've been kind of playing with like the basic features. I haven't gotten really too much into the nuts and bolts of like, because you can really change the sound quality as it goes in. I'm going to try something right now and see if you actually can hear this. There's a sound, one of the coolest features of the Rodecaster Pro 2 is that you can change your voice live in real time. Let's see if this sounds different.
Can you actually hear me? Can you hear me now?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
What's going on here?
I need it.
or.
If you want to, you can sound like this. It's,
oh my God.
That's happening in real time, which is weird because I hear this in my headphones. So I hear myself like this, which throws me off.
So that's
that is insane.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So you can even fine tune those features into the device too. So you can do some tweaking on those sounds also. So there's like 6 of them on here you can choose from. They're already built in. So it's fun. It's fun for prank calls, I guess.
Now I kind of want it.
Just for that, I know. Just for that feature, right?
Yeah, it's like there's so many possibilities I can use that for my podcast. I'm like, oh my gosh, the world is my oyster. But I guess I had one question. I've hopped around from like multiple, like, I guess, remote podcasting, like audio recording, because me and my host, I'm in Tennessee, he's in Ohio. So it's a bit difficult sometimes. I found this one it's called like eNewcaster. It's like very, very new-ish. I think it's based off of like Discord's like audio recording, because I found that Discord's audio works better for us. But it's weird because I have the Rodecaster Pro, the first one. So sometimes I can kind of like bypass without having to like pay to record. I can just kind of capture the audio from my Rodecaster.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of like a nice little bypass thing. But I guess what would be a suggestion for remote podcasters to get the best clean like audio? Because I think the one that we use now is fine, but, you know, like I said, I've been trying different things. I'm actually starting to think that there is no real solution. You kind of just have to work with what you got, but I wasn't sure if there was any other like remote, like.
Well, the one that I use exclusively, that I've always used probably since the early days, really has been Clean Feed. Now, Clean Feed, they just won an Emmy for film and studio production, because they use the film and studios use Clean Feed to do remote, voiceovers and things like that. So it's very, very good. Now, the problem with all of these, they all suffer from the same thing. And that is, you probably can hear right now, it's probably the internet. The internet is you're at the mercy of what the internet is doing. So if people got bad connections, or they got too much stuff on the line, or they have too many things happening on their same internet feed, it can cause issues. So that happens with all services. I know some of them swear that they fix that because they do like a local recording and then it gets uploaded later and all this other stuff. But still, you're still at the mercy of whatever. I personally love Clean Feed if you're just doing audio only. Now, if you're going to do something a little more advanced and something more like a video thing or something, StreamYard I think works pretty good. I think they're all kind of like, you're kind of the mercy of all of them. I mean, I like Clean Feed because it does give a clean, accurate representation of the audio from both sides of the conversation. So whatever is going into the microphone at the other side is exactly what you'll hear on your side, and exactly how it'll get taped on your side. So that's why it does sound so clean. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think when I came on for your show that we used Clean Feed, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it's mainly just me. I mean, my co-host, he kind of just shows up. I do all the editing and stuff like that, so he gets off easy. I'm like, hey, we're gonna record this today. He's like, okay. So yeah, but yeah, my mic. I guess another question I had really quick. I guess when it comes to like de-essers, like the S's and the hisses,
right?
I think I've been having a little bit of trouble with that. I have a Shure SM7B.
Well, look at you, fancy pants. Wow.
I bought this 2 years ago, and you know what? I bought another microphone, and I keep going back to my Shure SM7B. Because it's like,
for that money, I would too. My gosh.
Well, I have one of the Rode like pod mics, but it's like, it's not the shorter one. It's like one of the longer ones.
Well, I don't know.
And I was like, oh yeah, I'll just have this as like a backup. And I started using it, and then I was like, it doesn't sound the same. So I'm like, screw it. I'll just use my Shure for now. But I guess my question is, when it comes to like, is there a way to proper voice technique for at least reducing the amounts of like S's and like hisses when it comes to, I guess when you're, the S sounds and the SH sounds, is there a way to reduce that?
Yeah. On the Rodecaster 1, is there a setting? I know on the Rodecaster 2, there's a setting inside the processing effects. I think it's on the, The Aphex something or other. Inside the setting, there's a way, there's a de-esser built into there, at least the one I've seen. And there,
I tried it.
Okay. See, I haven't gone that far into the Rodecaster yet, like tweaking that stuff. I'm just basically set up like, yes, this is the microphone. Yes, this is the volume of it. Yes, let's go. That's about as far as I've gone with the Rodecaster.
Yeah.
But
I tried with a lot of the, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine.
I tried a lot of, like, I went deep into it, and like I tried a lot of, like, you know, the audio processing and stuff. It sounds fine, but you, with the Rodecaster, at least with the first one, you really have to like fine tune it to like everyone's voice, because everyone's voice is, you know, especially when it comes, everyone uses different microphones. So that also comes into a factor. But
are you still using Hindenburg?
Yeah. For my, I love it.
Yeah. So there's got to be something in there.
Fantastic.
That thing is amazing. I don't have Hindenburg. I'm kind of jealous, but I would suggest looking inside there. There's got to be something in that thing that's got to take care of it.
Yeah, I was looking through it. I purchased a few Wave plugins as well. So that's been helping me out a little bit, but I think it's mainly maybe with like the mic technique and stuff. You try like new things every single time you record, and you're like, well, I like that recording from like a few, times ago, but I got to, figure out how to get back there. But no, I kind of just wanted to come on and say, I think this space is great. Chris is an amazing podcaster himself, coming from one of his guests that was on his podcast. And I just want to thank you guys for your time.
Oh, thanks, Christian.
No problem.
Thanks for being up here. You bring up a good point. Chris, can I ask you a little bit more questions before we swap over to the second part of the room?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I know that you're moving into more of a coaching aspect, more of a helping others in the back end. And I shared your tweet up into the nest that says, podcasters, if you need help creating the best podcast possible, then you're here to help your professional one-on-one coaching. And it looks like that you're doing coaching spots for people who might want to take their podcast to that next level, get their sound quality in there and really help them one-on-one. Can you tell us more about this coaching that you're doing and providing for people?
Yeah, I was talking to a guy a couple weeks ago. I was in his show. He does coaching and things like that. And he was saying like, he was kind of shocked that I wasn't doing any coaching with what my service is. Like, you're not coaching people like one-on-one? I was like, well, I mean, not really. I didn't think about it because I was kind of so busy. My days are so packed, my weeks are so packed. By the time the weekend's over, it's like I need a vacation for my weekend all over again. And I go back to work around and around. So I thought, well, what I can do? Because I already have a Calendly account. And if you're not familiar with Calendly is a scheduling service platform. You can use it for professionals. A lot of podcasters use it. It's an easy way to book guests, or you can book anything you want, appointments, whatever, it doesn't matter. You get a free account, gives you only one thing that you're going to book for. So whatever it is, you can put questions in place, you can put whatever you want, and people book a time with you. It could be like an interview or whatever. They can book it on their time, and the time zones match up and things like that. So what I decided to do was make a few other ones along with my account. That way I kind of keep track of if I'm doing any kind of coaching or anything, I'm only available on these days at this time. It kind of helps me narrow in those time slots. So there's not a lot of time available, but the time slots are there, and those they are available if you want to come on. Now, as far as the coaching goes, I was thinking you know what? There's only so much I can do, like a group session like this, and there's only so much I can do, doing a podcast, because if you go on YouTube, there's probably a million different videos on how to do stuff on whatever program you're using and stuff like that. But what if you are watching the video and you're like, well, hang on a second. What do you mean you did that? Well, what are you talking about? Okay, can you go back to that one spot? You skipped over 4 things. You went from A to F, and now I'm confused. Well, I need help on part C or something. So I think people really learn best when somebody is there, showing them how to do something. I remember when I bought my guitar, probably 20 years ago, I bought a guitar, and I was there. I was at the music store. I'm I want to buy DVDs to learn how to play the guitar, right? I still can't play the guitar. I watched those. I couldn't figure it out. I think for me personally, if I had somebody there, showing me hands-on, this is what we do, this is how you do it, I can ask questions like on the fly, like, oh, what about this though? And they can answer my questions right there. That would have helped me out. And I think of it like coaching or tutoring rather than being in a classroom environment. I do know that there's plenty of podcast consultants and coaches and things like that. And some of them, not all, but some of them, what they do is they charge a ton of money. And also a lot of them do this whole group coaching thing. So they'll have like, not just you one-on-one. If you want to do the one-on-one stuff, you got to pay a lot of money to get to that level. A lot of these coaching, they'll do like this group session thing like we're doing today. Like everybody kind of comes on, answers questions in a group setting. But what if you want something personal to where I'm talking about you and your show, not everybody else's show, just you and me, your show. We're figuring out your show one-on-one. So I designed a program with my limited space available where I'm going to create a coaching call for 1 hour with somebody who wants to come on. And it's going to be via Zoom. Now, the only reason I would do it via Zoom was so that I can physically share the screen and show you, okay, this is what we're doing, and go over things live in real time. So I'm designing that right now, and a limited space available because I don't have a ton of time. So the time slots are available on the tweet. I did put the tweet pinned it to my profile, but I think Pixie, you put it into the chat thing here today.
I did. I put it into the chat and into the net.
That is the link to book with me. So like I said, limited space is available. So if you see something on there, if you want to come on, if you want some personal touch, you want someone to answer your questions like live in real time and go over your podcast directly, not everyone's podcast, but yours, then I'm available for you.
Oh, this is amazing. And you said because it's a limited time and you're very dedicated to what you do in that hour. Do you want to kind of throw out a number for the people that might be listening in this space?
Are you talking like price wise?
Yeah.
So I was kind of toying with the number. The way I look at it like this is like, because my time is extremely valuable, I don't have a lot of time throughout the day available. So I have to kind of put a value on my time. And I was kind of pricing on what other people are charging for their services. So I'm a little less than some of the other ones. So I put a number out there. I'm going to say charge $200 for the session. That's $200 me dedicated for 1 hour dedicated to you for that 1 hour time slot, going over your podcast, going over everything, answering all your questions, showing you some tips and tricks, things I do on my end. I can show you my computer. I can show you what I do for the audio editing. I can show you how I create the show. You're going to get like a one-on-one behind the scenes look, a personal look on what I do, when I can show you and maybe help you create the best thing for your show.
That's amazing, Chris. I mean, to have you personally take time from your 2 podcasts to sit down, give people information, talk to them one-on-one, and really be able to iron out those kinks and give them the best quality audio with what they already have. And I really think it's great. I feel that it's great that you're building a resource for people, that you're giving all of this coaching. And I love the fact that you're willing to be here, because my podcast, it's a project. Sometimes I need somebody that's going to be willing to coach me. Sometimes I have to invest in my stuff. I have to invest in my time and my effort and to really hone in my skills. So, Chris, I want to just thank you before we roll on to the next hour. Thank you for being up here and helping us with our sound, answering our questions, answering the DMs. This is great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're all welcome, by the way. I'm here to help, and like I said, it's my time is very, very limited, so I have to put a price on my time. I put a value on my time. I know some people don't really value their time very well, but I do, because I don't have a lot of it. I can't waste. I'm basically making it worth everyone's while, So if you want to take it seriously, and if you want to seriously create a better show for your show, you want seriously someone to help you out and take it seriously, I'm here to help you. So if you enjoyed that and you want more Twitter Spaces, I might be available when I am available to create a Twitter Space live like that with the Roadcaster. That was quite fun doing that whole thing. So once again, if you want to schedule an appointment with me to work on your podcast personally, the link to that is down below in my show notes today. And I also have it on my social media, and I'll probably eventually work it into my website somehow at podtasticaudio.com. I haven't quite got there yet. Like I said, the podcast website is still kind of like just started, and I got the bare bones of it put together, but I always can add to it later. And I definitely will be adding coaching sessions into the podcast website in the near future. But for right now, if you go to the show notes today in this episode, right below that, there'll be a link to book with me. Very easy, very simple to do for right now. And if you have any questions about your podcast, you always can reach out to me any way you want, and I'll help you out best I can. But the best choice, I would say, if you want to get one-on-one personal stuff, is to book a session with me. Space is very, very limited. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend and your podcast is thriving. And if you need help, I'm here to help you. I've already got it all set up in place. Just book today and we will work on something to make sure your show sounds amazing and is amazing. And until next time, you keep on making fantastic audio with your amazing podcast, and I'll catch you next week.